Charles, we're trying something particularly ambitious today.
It's good. Ambitious is a good thing.
Well, yeah, no guts, no glory, right? I mean,
That's
you've got to
true.
have ambition. But today is possibly the hottest day we've ever tried for an outdoor show. And I hope we'll be live. It's not showing live on the phone yet, but sometimes there's a little bit of a delay. Yes, it looks like we're live.
Good.
There we go. Welcome, 413 viewers. That's excellent. Now, Charles, I was a bit late in meeting you today, and I apologize for that.
Right. That's all right.
But I had an unexpected encounter that I think is very important. And I also want to add, if there is any overheating or radio interference that causes the production to be cut unexpectedly, which does happen, I'll reassemble it and I will present it on patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth for my sponsors to enjoy.
Sure.
I don't mean to imply that Charles is obviously a extremely important part of Crowdsource the Truth, but I want to be clear about how that all works. Number of new steps to try to avoid overheating today. But the reason I was delayed, Charles, I ran into Eric Schmidt,
Wow.
former CEO of Google, and you can see him right there. I don't know if you can see him tiny on screen.
Yeah.
But he was improperly wearing his mask.
Wow.
And at first I asked him if he would pose for a selfie with me, and he said he's on the phone, which I understand. Crazy people approach me while I'm on the phone, and it's quite annoying in New York City. But he continued to talk to me, even though he was on the phone.
Uh-huh.
And I asked him a series of questions that I captured on video,
Wow.
which I have here.
Great.
Well, but I'm extremely concerned, Charles, that if I run that video here on YouTube, even though Eric Schmidt is no longer the CEO, his considerable power might result in me being completely obliterated from YouTube, which I'd like to avoid.
Sprays.
So, yeah, let's walk on this side so we can show everybody the fountain that was formerly the home of a homeless Schmiegel-like creature.
Collection of them. You're not supposed to be inside the fountain, and there's at least one person there, see, inside the fountain.
Well, you're also not supposed to be skateboarding or bicycling, but the police seem to be enjoying the shade over there by the
There's another camera crew.
yeah. Well, they're enjoying the shade over there by the statue of George Washington, which still has not been, they haven't covered over the F-12 things that are painted on there. It's quite disturbing to see.
Well, I'd like to see them tear down the statues of Karl Marx and Frederick Engels. And
where are those statues?
I know there's got to be some. They're probably all over Columbia University.
Well, okay, so we've made it further through. Whoops. There we go. We've made it further through the park than we did last week without overheating. I don't want to
Let's not
jinx
it.
us, but
So this is, you're supposed to be 6 feet apart. And unless my sense of
distance.
depth perception is way off, these folks are not watching Jason. Watch it. Like,
How'd you like that guy, Charles?
yeah, he's just, F you, get out of my way.
Did he say that?
Hmm?
I didn't hear him say
No,
that.
well, he didn't say that, but that's just, he's just walking right towards you.
That was definitely
There
his
is-
attitude.
There is a convention that, people walk on the right side of this,
Well, I mean, he's among those who are just walking around looking to start trouble, somebody who's recognized that the police are not enforcing
Right.
even serious crime, let alone petty crime, so that's been thriving. I noticed on my walk over here to the park, there's still, I don't know what phase of Cuomo, whatever.
Incompetence.
We're at here. Yeah.
Full
but they
incompetence.
still have wood.
Hmm?
A lot of businesses are still covered
Yeah.
with wood.
So the question is, Jason, do we want to walk down Broadway or do we want to walk down
Let's
another
go,
one deeper?
well, whichever you prefer, Charles, because what we're doing today basically is we're going to go back to visit the shop.
The
former-
infamous.
Exactly. We've heard that during this past week, I heard at 3:30 a.m. that it was taken down.
Yeah, I saw it 3:30, then I saw another one saying 3:40, but it could have been a typo, either one. So now we're headed east. This is your old stomping grounds, right?
NYU neighborhood, yeah.
And still, it's everything, vacant shops, boarded up for rent.
Yeah.
And when you think about, you started businesses, I've started businesses, you're sitting there today trying to decide whether you want to do anything more in 2020. What you're really thinking about is, where's a nice place if I could fly, where's a nice place I could fly to and spend the balance of the year on the beach doing
I don't
nothing.
even want to get on a plane. I was thinking about this morning, Charles. I don't know if I'm ever going to travel by plane again.
Well, I'm sure you will.
Well, first of all, they're throwing people off for not wearing masks. I saw a video of a woman who refused to wear a mask, and they threw her off a Delta plane, and everybody was jeering and clapping as she
Right.
got thrown off, making fun of her.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens there. I think there's been an intense overreaction to the pandemic, and really, the media has hardly covered itself in glory. It's really covered itself in the first part of Shaitoli, and because, as you pointed out from day one, if you were to do a test right now of any human being, really in the world, but especially here in Manhattanistan, you would come back showing you have all kinds of viruses,
Yeah.
and all kinds of issues, and that's normal. The question is, are any of them going to trigger a reaction that will, combined with another problem you have, send you into a medical emergency that could be, could lead to your death or serious injury or illness? That's the question. So it's irresponsible to say there are 4 million cases or whatever. Wow, that's outrageous.
Yeah.
When there are 325 million Americans.
Well, and people have also, doctors and professionals have spoken about the effectiveness of this PCR test and what it's designed to do and how the results can be kind of manipulated to,
Right.
like you said, say 3,000 cases. Okay, well,
Watch out.
that doesn't mean they're going to become sick or dead
Let's keep
necessarily.
going one down.
Sure, across the street.
Yeah. So the other thing
we
is,
see more artwork, Charles.
yeah, well, we'll see that on the way back. I think it'd be fun to go down this other street.
Sure.
Unless you want to go down, because this
Well,
takes us into the back of the shop.
Yeah, we'll go that way and we'll come back this way. I think it's useful for people to see some of the same locations. We haven't been out for a while, actually. I've been specifically avoiding
Right.
going outside because it's just repeatedly an exercise in unpleasant encounters that I would rather avoid.
And it's hot.
Yeah, so just getting back real quick to my little meeting with Eric Schmidt.
Sure.
I will post that on Patreon and Subscribestar because, again, I think if I put
Sure.
it on this video, if I play it right now, I can just already see in my mind YouTube deciding that it's, somehow harassment or hate speech or whatever
Sure.
they would say, and they would, take the whole channel down for making Eric Schmidt look like, for speaking to Eric Schmidt on the street and getting the response that he gave.
Yeah, well, the thing about Schmidt, and I'd like to know, is what exactly was he or is he doing with Eric Braverman?
Oh, I can't believe I didn't ask him about Braverman. I was asking him about Clinton's, but he obviously wasn't going to answer me whatever
Be
I
careful
said.
here.
Yeah,
Outnumbered.
problem waiting to happen, isn't it? Yeah, you know what? I'm very interested in what he's doing with Eric Braverman. I actually called Eric Braverman and got him on the phone one time. Did I tell you that, Charles?
You did?
And he just said, hello, hello. And I was like, oh, Mr. Braverman. And he's like, hello, hello. I said, can you hear me? And he hung up.
Yeah, I
So I
can hear
think he
you.
realized I wasn't somebody that he knew.
Right.
And he became... Do you find that strange, Charles?
What?
Portable toilet right there on the...
They're generally around here.
This does not look like how that's supposed to be.
What?
Just the smashed up entryway there.
Yeah. Well, so this late at night, basically what's happening in Portland, what's happening around the country is that the thugs come out around midnight and they start patrolling and causing mayhem from midnight till 5, thinking that, they own the night. And so
They're not wrong.
they're not wrong. And, it is, look, Lola is a whore.
Where does it say that? Oh yeah.
For her.
I don't know. A lot of strange messages
But in the case of Google and Eric Schmidt, it is extremely unusual the way he suddenly left Google, and then he gets involved with his foundation, and what exactly, we have the fellow with the unfortunate last name of Epstein. His wife died under mysterious circumstances.
Isn't his first name also Jeffrey Epstein?
I forget, it might be, I thought it was Robert, but...
Robert Epstein, yeah.
But, so we have this unusual situation where a company like Google, and who knows what they're really keeping, you know, in storage and what abilities they really have. But here's this, I think it was a psychiatrist suggesting that Google switched 10 million votes in the 2016 election to Hillary. And I see some of that now.
Sorry, this thing is making noise. I didn't even realize that.
It's okay. I see some of that now in my own personal life and experience with Google. So when I want to search my email, it used to automatically give you on my phone years of results. Now It starts by giving you, well, the recent month.
Just what it wants.
And then 6 months, and then you have to push it again and again and again to get more. I haven't really been spending a lot of time looking at Google search, but you know, the stories, if you don't put anything into Google, the stories that come up are normally pro-swamp, anti-Trump.
Exactly.
You know, and for the people who are not dedicated learners, you know, we hit the search results and you just say this must be the most important stuff that's going on. In a more persistent people, you have to search and search and search, and sometimes really important stories, you know, the only way you get them is if you put the whole correct title or a link into search.
And the only way you'll know that is if you've seen it before and then you happen to remember it or someone tells you about it.
Now I bring that up to say there are going to be to highlight there are going to be hearings this week. I forget in which committee of the House on the subject of does tech have too much power? And I think the answer to that question is certainly it does.
Would it surprise you to know, Charles, that Mr. Schmidt made a point of taking a picture of my face that he'll perhaps run through some facial recognition thing?
It wouldn't surprise me in the
to
slightest.
Identify me immediately, and if any strange electronic harassment beyond what I'm ordinarily subjected to.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be, yeah, take that guy's name down.
Exactly. Well, you know, it's interesting to think how much power somebody like that might have. I mean,
right.
What kind of backdoor into any particular Google product could the former CEO of Google maintain?
Right, and you know, same with Facebook, same with Twitter. So I think it's a particularly opportune moment for these hearings because there are allegations that the recent protests that have turned violent in many places are being coordinated chiefly through Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah. Why do they allow that? But the second I say anything about Eric Schmidt, they'll erase my account.
You're deplatformed. We'll just wait till light. You get deplatformed. So that's an area where, you know, we really got to look into it and do something about it. We got to do something about it now. You can't wait till November 3rd.
Right.
You know, or trust these people to get it right by November 3rd because they won't. Okay, this is Houston Street.
So hot today, Charles.
It really is. That's pronounced hat. H-A-T.
Now, what is REI Co-op? I'm aware
well, that's,
of REI.
That's somebody who's telling me about that. It's nice. Wrong direction. Bicycles. That's a, forget. Well, yeah, it's a sporting goods shop.
But the co-op part of it, I haven't seen before.
At low prices.
And then
no profit.
Who's that statue up there?
This used to be, I forget what this was. I went to a party here once.
Puck building.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so that's Puck, who's like a Shakespearean guy, isn't
he? Right, in
Midsummer Night's Dream.
Midsummer Night's Dream, exactly.
But isn't he an imp? He's some sort of like mythological something.
Yeah.
That guy means trouble, I think, no?
I guess, I don't, it's been a while since I've...
Let's see, maybe there are comments. 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 So hang on, let me get this. You know, that's amazing. This has got the whole new software upgrade. Sorry, just give me 1 second, Charles. Is it cooperating? Hang on now. I hear nothing. Check 1, 2, 3. Okay. We're back to working.
Good. So let's, if we may, can we go back into the
Whatever you want.
yeah, into the subject of the poster and congratulate the art department. That is a show, American, I think it's called Chopper or something.
Yeah.
Like that. That is, if you want to go as far away from my life as you possibly can, it's that show. I'm not mechanical.
You're not modifying huge Harley Davidsons?
No.
Oh.
I did, the first thing that my eldest child learned how to ride was a dirt bike. Bought two, one for me, one for him, and we used to go zipping around our property on the weekend, or then when we lived there full time, on these dirt bikes. Which, if you've never been on a dirt bike, on dirt, in the woods and on dirt, the things these were
super powerful, right?
Incredible
Super light.
acceleration.
Yeah.
Through a field, and
well, there's no way you could get injured with that.
Oh yes, there is. And we had like I want to say it was about 11 or 12 acre lawn in front of the house, with these inclines and tiers, and so you go at speed over the top of the thing, you go down the incline, you go to the next level.
Charles,
yeah, I know.
Another face. It was about to be Charles Ortel's Trail of Tears.
Right. So at least we could record it. And so we would go, zipping around in different directions. And wouldn't you know it, my ex-wife was getting a little concerned about this and was watching us from the house level. And it was like a Laurel and Hardy movie or a Laurel and Hardy episode. We were, I don't know, far apart and made these decisions to turn without seeing where the other person was. And then we both accelerated right at each other. I mean, of all the many places that you could have gone in this 12-acre lawn park, and we both jumped off the bikes at high speed. The bikes went flying. It was really...
Were you injured?
No.
Oh, that's good.
Thank God.
So there's still a lot. See, Charles, that eyeball with the tear.
Yeah, it's a slightly different version
image.
of it.
I mean,
slightly
it does kind of seem like the same artist who maybe is just a rest in roses. Now, what is 26? Is that Breonna Taylor's age?
I have no clue.
And why? I mean, she didn't play basketball, did she?
I don't know.
Oh, look at that. And qualified immunity. I don't think you can really do that with certain jobs because it would just create a situation where nobody would want to take them. I mean, I don't know if people realize that lawyers have qualified immunity and they do a lot of really egregious things. They don't get captured on people's cell phones and sensationalized all over the place, but they still ruin people's lives.
Right.
Throw them in jail. Take their homes and their money and everything. Sorry.
So back to the top. First, congratulations to the art department for another great, more eyeballs. Another great poster. And the reason for the selection of the title is that apparently Mayor DeCrazio decided at the last minute, early in the morning, a number of days ago, to, in theory, get rid of the old CHOP. And we're going to go down there. We were there, right, you and I together several times, I think.
Yeah.
Last time I remember you and I were there, it was really gross.
Yeah.
And I think it got worse from there. So it'll be quite interesting to see how much they've managed to clean up
it up,
and what remnants may still be there.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious to see, because we hear on the news it's been cleaned up, but it's another one of these things that until you actually see it, we're not really sure what's going on over there. There was very little mainstream reporting on that whole installation at all.
So this is also something to maybe focus on, that you can't go inside because of course the virus will know the difference between inside and outside. Right. But you can go outside here and the virus is going to definitely not jump 1.5 feet away from somebody.
I thought they decided now it can go 26 feet.
I know, but it's just these people are all, you can see for yourselves, are all very close together. Now on the one hand, this is sort of charming to have all these tables outdoors, and I actually like outdoor dining. I prefer it here.
95 degrees?
Well, you get used to it, and actually in in Scandinavia, that's kind of pretty.
Charles,
In Scandi-
26 feet is the new distance the virus can jump. That's further than Fauci can throw a baseball.
Yeah, exactly.
Wear
And
a mask
Obama.
for that.
Obama also had a little trouble with that.
I'm surprised because I thought if you're good at golf, you're supposed to be good at baseball.
Good at golf.
Oh, is Obama not
Have
good?
you ever? I mean, I'm horrible at golf.
I don't know anything about golf.
I'm good at tennis, but horrible at golf, and I could beat Obama in golf playing with my left hand. It's left-handed clubs
I
instead of
don't
right.
understand something, Charles. When I was the CEO of 21st Century 3D, and even now as Crowdsource the Truth, I don't have time to even take a day off. How do these guys who are presidents of the United States find so much time to play golf?
Valerie Jarrett wasn't playing golf.
Yeah, right. She was working the whole time.
She was doing everything. She and James Comey and John Brennan.
Exactly.
But I agree. In golf, people who really play it, like Trump is a very good golfer, I'm told by people who've actually played with him.
Well, and that makes sense. I mean, he owns like $1 billion golf.
But it's like
course.
anything else, Jason. Some things you're good, you're naturally gifted, or you're not. And to be good at golf, you got to be very good with geometry. You got to be very good. You got to have great
Hand-eye
physical
coordination.
hand-eye coordination. You got to be able to think. The terrain is not flat. How's the ball going to roll? I mean, it's a lot of stuff, a lot of math in it, and there's a fair amount of physical skill involved as well. Particularly, I don't know that Trump does this, particularly if you walk the course as opposed to having somebody drive you around. But anyway,
I can make a guess.
so we're headed down now, resolutely, fearlessly,
Right.
into the belly of the beast. And I would just say, anecdotally, there are a lot more people here now, out on the street, than there were last time we were here.
But
And
it
it's-
doesn't feel like every business is open, does it?
Oh, no. And, the more I walk around here, the stronger the argument is to get the hell out of this slum.
Well, I mean, Charles, you and I are two essentially creatures of New York. We're guys who have lived here basically all our lives. And I never thought that I would want to move out of New York. I mean, when I moved to LA, I still had an office here and still had my apartment. And I was back and forth literally weekly. So it felt like a real positive expansion, not like I was being forced to do
That's
something.
rat
Oh
carcass.
my gosh, look at that. People are going to want to see
you got
that.
the smell of wafting garbage.
Flat rat.
You got, a flattened rat. Looks kind of white.
That's racist.
I don't think you want to
White rat.
lose too many visitors. By the way, you mentioned a number when we started. You said we had 419 people watching or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Did I misread something that Joe Bite Me did a stream where he had 19 people watching?
Well, those 19 were joined by another 400 to watch ours.
Right.
Somebody sent me a great meme saying that, when Kanye West announces he's running for president and says a bunch of crazy stuff, there's a backlash against him.
Right.
When Joe Biden is running for president and says a bunch of crazy stuff, they think he's going to be the next president. So
I know.
that was clearly white privilege.
Yeah. But honestly, it's like when, I don't know if you've had this experience before, I certainly have, when somebody sells the person you've never met as outstanding and this and that,
Right.
and you're really going to enjoy what they have to say. They're very accomplished. They've got all kinds of great perspectives. I think I told you, maybe I haven't told the crowd before, an example would be at this tennis camp that no longer exists, John Gardner's Tennis Ranch. About 30-odd years ago, the family was there, and I started playing tennis with this dentist from the Midwest and his kids, who were teenagers and were very good, nationally capable of being nationally ranked players. And so we would play a lot of tennis, and there were quite a few big people out there, CEOs of this company, CEO of Paramount, CEO of Dow Chemical, high-level executives as well as wealthy people. And so we would do all that, and then your joints, if you play tennis for 8 hours in a row, which we were doing, that on hard courts, that's gonna, you want to jump into the hot tub. So we were in the hot tub, and this guy,
The story's about to get weird.
it is, it's a Joe Biden special. This guy comes, takes off his shirt, and some men are basically animals. They have so much hair.
Hairy, yeah.
I mean, and this guy, I have never seen not that I spent time watching this, but I've never seen in my long life anybody with more body hair than this guy.
Including that Geraldo episode with the wolf boy?
I haven't seen that, but this guy gets into the hot tub and the hair floats to the surface.
Oh.
You know, it's just a little bit, it's a big hot tub. It's a little bit weird. You know, and so he notices.
Is that spreading COVID, you think, John?
Well, so he's listening to us. So we're talking about, you know, as we would tend to do, politics and different things. And this guy was Jewish, my friend. And
shedding in your hot tub.
No, he cared a lot about the Middle East. So we were talking about Middle East ideas and peace and this and that. And the guy with the hairy chest hair, you know, pontificated, like he expected us to know who he was. And I did know who he was, and the other guy didn't. And he
Kissinger
made some comment thinking he was going to add to the discussion. And my dentist friend looked at him and says, "This is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard." This guy.
Who was the guy?
It was Pete Peterson, the founder of Blackstone Group, who had been Secretary of Commerce, and he actually was a pretty smart guy.
Wait, Peterson, he was, so wait a minute, this guy was a dead ringer for the sketch of a murder suspect of this woman, Mary, do you know who I'm talking about?
I don't.
Pete
Peterson, though, was a banker. He was chairman of Lehman Brothers.
Thick glasses, big bulbous nose.
He was from Omaha.
Oh my God, Charles. David Hawkins talks about him all the time.
But it was...
He had something to do with Bell and Howell, his
absolutely,
father.
He was CEO of Bell and Howell.
That's the guy.
Yeah.
Holy crap, you met him.
Sure, well, he was...
Well, he's a murderer, according to Hawkins.
Well, I don't know about that. He's still dead.
Yeah, but...
He died recently.
Look
But
into this.
his wife, they were a power couple. I don't know if it's his first or only wife, but his wife is, I think, one of the founders of PBS and Sesame Street and all that kind of stuff.
I got to tell Hawkins about this.
And when I would go to John Gardner's tennis ranch, I would go there in January after sometimes at Christmas, New Year's, and sometimes early January. And, you know, everybody there was pretty much there to play tennis. That's why you go there. But these people would go for breakfast and they'd be comparing notes about who they were going to meet. And they were like, all they could think about was business. But,
is this where you were playing against John McEnroe?
Well, no. I'd never played. Oh, I hit the ball around with him, but no, this is in Arizona.
There's a ton of stuff still boarded up, I have to say, Charles.
Huh?
A ton of stuff still boarded up.
Oh, yeah? And now where are we? We're getting
close to City Hall.
Yeah.
I think that's it, no? That statue?
Could be, yeah. You know, you think about it, if City Hall, this city is still one of the richest cities, or a city where some of the richest people on earth spend time. And it has an ancient history in American terms. You would have thought that DeCrazio and the Democrats who control the city for decades would have looked at us and said, you know, the downtown area around City Hall is a hollowed out husk of what it once was.
Yeah.
You know, why don't we figure out a way to get people coming here?
Revitalize it?
Yeah, and why don't we reimagine it?
They have. They've turned it into a socialist
hellhole.
Yeah, you know, post-apocalyptic disaster.
Yeah. And this morning when I was going out for my coffee, that's a new thing. We're going all over the place, but the new trick in these fast food restaurants is they say, "Oh, yeah, the coffee will be $1.59, but I have no coins."
Oh, right.
So now
the restaurant has no coins, or
the McDonald's has no coins. So you give me $2.
No change, or it's $2.
Give me $5, and you get no change, or $2, or whatever. And
wow.
But on the way, stumbling there in the morning, you know, I at first blush, I thought I saw garbage lying on the ground, and no, it was a person on garbage, sound asleep, and then I, you know, avoided stepping on that person by accident, and kept on going. There were 2 more people, and then there were 3 over here, you know, and again, for the city this rich to have as many people devoted to helping, in theory, homeless people, why aren't those people actually helped? You know, why? Yeah. I see the same people on the street day in and day out. If I can see it, why aren't these professionals, you know, making a real effort to understand why these people are on the street. And is there something you can do to make their lives better for them? Instead, I suspect it's a lot more to do with making sure the bureaucrats are well paid and don't have to work. It's sad.
Yeah.
Okay, here we are.
Well, it was the municipal building with the statue
That
on
one?
it that I was seeing. Yeah. But that's right across the street from City Hall.
Yeah, so we're coming up the way we did last time, behind it. I thought it'd be fun to do it more or less the same way we did it. And see
What's
if
FPS?
F? I don't know.
Security checkpoint. I've never seen that before. Federal
Protective service? I don't know.
something. You know, this Doug Valentine book talks about how the Department of Homeland Security incorporated elements of the Phoenix program. It's
Really?
a fascinating book. It's quite disturbing. CIA as organized crime. Charles, it's really a dangerous entity. It not only, in the looking at it from the standpoint of potentially taking direct actions against U.S. citizens, whether it's, let's not speculate, but just the things that they do that we believe they're intending to do are putting us in danger. I mean, the CIA is responsible for terrorism all over the world.
Well, again, what I would say is that we, the people, are responsible for letting the CIA do what it did. If we didn't want them to do it,
But what could we do?
we could rise up, and then these people have demonstrations. We could have demonstrations. We could push Trump to get rid of Gina Haspel, or have her explain what she was really doing in the UK in 2016. Which brings me to a development I'd like to spend a little bit of time on. Maybe we can
Okay, sure.
talk about it a bit. There was an announcement overnight that the real Steele source is
Christopher Steele.
is Igor Danchenko, who is apparently somebody with a criminal record, an alcoholic who has trouble, who's had multiple arrests for disorderly conduct in public, who had no sources in...
Are they telling us not to go there?
I don't see that.
Fence?
It's open.
Okay. Multiple sources, sorry.
Multiple sources. He claimed to have multiple sources. In Russia, in reality, he had no sources. Steele knew this, and multiple people close to Steele, including Fiona Hill, who was a witness in the impeachment trial against Trump,
Right.
and of course Steele, and Eric Schmidt, all worked together at the Brookings Institution, and that one of this
Home of lawfare.
home of lawfare,
Ben Whitty's good friend of James Comey.
and the various and
Harris.
sundry people. I guess there are multiple
Yeah, I don't think
barricades
they
now.
want us going there.
We can ask them.
Well, no, let's not do that. It's better to get told not to do it after you're doing it than to ask and be told don't do it.
I think we have to go
Across the street.
across the street.
Yeah, okay, we got the light. Look, this guy's making a 3-point turn. That's fine. Yeah. You know what? Let's walk right here because we got the shade, if that's all right,
All right.
Charles.
So back on the story. So it turns out that multiple people, including the FBI, knew in January 2017, that this source was an idiot, completely unreliable. And nonetheless, we were treated with 3 years of this bullshit Russian hoax, Ukrainian hoax, you name it. And it also turns out that Lindsey Graham has revealed that the FBI lied to Congress about what was going on with the FISA court documents and with their knowledge of how badly the Steele dossier had been impugned.
Yeah, but that's a little bit like revealing that Santa Claus is fat.
It is?
So, Charles, but now nobody can go to City Hall Park. How is
Why?
that fair?
But why this didn't happen a lot sooner,
Yeah, why did they wait? I think I know why. Because there was speculation shortly, like the next day, there's still water in there. There was speculation that cities that were allowing these autonomous zones were not going to get federal funding. So that was what, I guess, caused them to clear it out right away.
I hear yelling, but let me just tease out the end of this story. So it turns out that a crucial figure in efforts to get this damaged, defective, incorrect some might even say defamatory dossier into the public domain. One strand of it was led by McCain, another by Harry Reid, another by Steele himself, and the fourth by Strobe Talbott and Cody Shearer, the fifth. So it was an organized effort to lend the credibility of the Brookings Institute, which does or did have credibility, and the State Department, and others. Sorry?
This guy on a bike behind you. We got to get to a sidewalk here.
Yeah.
Here, let me dash ahead.
Quickly, huh? Yeah, it's always been a creepy sound to me.
We're in the direct sun here.
But anyway, so then you start looking into Strobe Talbott. Now, I have heard his name from time to time, but I went back and checked through some background stuff before going on air today. Strobe was a Rhodes Scholar with Bill Clinton. He was in Magdalen College. Bill was at University College. Interestingly...
May I interject that one of the faculty at Magdalen College is, who's the fat crack app?
Stephen Halper.
Halper, yeah.
So, now this is probably somebody important. So when you check the list of Rhodes Scholars that's up there, under everyone's name who actually was graduated from Oxford, it gives, what college and the year. In Bill's case, it says honorary degree in 1970, which squares with my understanding that...
Why did it take so long to kick out the vagrants from the park?
Thank you. Thank you for your hard work on our behalf.
Moving the fence, yeah. You can't defund the police. Who would move these fences around?
Right. So,
so Magdalen College.
So when you get into Strobe Talbott's background, alarm bells start going off. He was at Oxford 68 to 70. This is a period of time when the anti-war protests were at their height. Nixon had been elected in 68, and the Soviet Union was very competitive with the United States at that point, very eager to have promising Americans brought into their orbit, and very eager to fan, as is happening now, fan the flames of discontent inside the U.S. So here's this Rhodes Scholar, the first one, Strobe Talbott, out of the blue, somehow, as an American, born in Dayton, Ohio, went to Hotchkiss School, which is a very fancy private school in Connecticut, and then he went to Yale.
He should have gone to non-Hotchkiss School.
And
it's more treatable.
And he gets the chance, he gets the tap to translate Nikita Khrushchev's memoir.
It's absurd.
Right? It's just the likelihood that was innocent is very low.
Exactly.
And then he spends a lot of time concentrating not only on Soviet Union matters, but later he was the principal architect of globalism at Yale. He was teaching globalism. Then he was the #2 Secretary of State person, Deputy Secretary of State under Clinton. Careful here.
Yep. I'll just be slightly in front and keep you in camera.
I don't want to get fly swatted.
Yeah, this is not the route I expected us to have to take. But
do you want to go down to the battery, or do you want to go
wherever you want to go?
So he gets involved as running the State Department effectively under Warren Christopher, or whoever followed Warren Christopher, and Bill Clinton was Madeleine Not So Bright, I guess, was one of the people. Yeah. And so then he goes and he's headed.
I'll go to this side.
Okay.
What?
Excuse me. Maybe we can go across the street.
Yeah, let's just get to some shade is what I'm trying to do.
He runs the Brookings Institution from 2002 to 2017. And by all accounts that are in the press now...
Strobe Talbott started it, or...?
No, it was started long ago, but he was head of it for 15 years.
Huh.
And, by all accounts, 2001 to 17, 2001 to 16 is when we had 9/11, we had the security state rise up, we had Iran.
You also had the first bombing of the World Trade Center while Bill Clinton was president.
Right. And so I call red alert, as it were, on Strobe Talbott and his background.
Absolutely.
You know? So one sec. I'm fine. I just have something caught in my throat.
There's a whole other thing with Strobe Talbott and Cody Shearer.
Right.
And that had to do with Bill Clinton getting elected president. There's some kind of, look at this thing, Charles. Some kind of connection to Doonesbury, where there was some story about Gary Hart buying marijuana. And Lee Stranahan has spoken to me about this. Wow, this guy in the Jeep is going crazy.
Well, Gary Trudeau was at Yale. One sec. I'm going to have to go in and get something to drink.
Sure. Okay. I could wait out here while you do that.
All right.
Because I think going into the store is going to require maskage and all that. I'll address some comments while Charles goes to Dwayne Reed. All right, so pretty interesting encounter with Eric Schmidt. Well, this will be funny. We should be able to still hear Charles inside, I think. Although if I get too far away, it'll start to be static. Human spike in virus, someone say. Do the ferries still transport cars back and forth from New Jersey? Well, I think they have the New York waterway, but I don't know if you can put your car on there. Hi, Norma Jean. I am talking to you guys. Bill Clinton had 9/11 in 1994. I think it was 1993. I remember I was walking across the street to my old office right when that news came on, and I was looking at the World Trade Center as they were talking about it getting bombed. Justice now says I was going to move to New York about 5 years ago. Glad I didn't, even though I hate this liberal shitholi as well. Yeah, I mean, I hear you. Check your mic. What's wrong with it, Fred? Oh, it might be under this thing. Is it overmodulating? Go in for Charles. That's not that easily done, Free MPEG. Why should I go in for Charles? Adjust the mid-tone up a hair. I don't have the ability to control that. Brookings over 500 million in asset. That's amazing.
Can I?
Please remember to bring hard candy or a bottle of water for Charles. Judy, Charles is not a geriatric. He knows how to take care of himself.
What? No.
Check my mic, Fred. What do you want me to check it for? Somebody wants me to adjust the mid-tone. I'm not an audio engineer. I don't know what to tell you. This is the mic. That crazy path is looking at the passers-by. Audio is fine, Norma says. I mean, remember, I'm listening to myself through my own skull and the headphones and all the surrounding noise.
I don't need that.
So
Thank
to
you.
appear in public, it seems that the cops put on masks. All right. So they're basically doing what some other people are doing, which is acknowledging that when it's 96 degrees out, wearing a medical mask is a really
Thanks.
good.
It went away, but I got this anyway. Sorry, it was just a little fleck of food, I think.
Very low mic. It dropped a few minutes ago. Oh, okay. All right, let's see what's going on with the low mic. I don't know what to tell you.
It could just be the sound of the traffic.
You know what? Yeah, it's difficult for me to mess with that on the fly. But anyway, you were saying about Strobe Talbott and...
Yeah, I mean, the notion that a young graduate student, an American graduate student living in London would be tapped by Nikita
the
Khrushchev.
fact that you would get anywhere near Nikita Khrushchev.
Well, unless the goal was to have Strobe, inculcate himself in with Bill Clinton and Ira Magaziner and all these other people. So if we had serious FBI, which we do not under Christopher Wray, we would be going into the files of Bill Clinton, the security clearance files of Bill Clinton.
Stuff was destroyed in 2002.
And Strobe Talbott and Ira Magaziner. And we would be sending people, I'm thinking of, say, Larry Johnson, people who have experience looking at these files and know what should be there, would be able to say, well, wait a minute, this file's looking awfully thin, something seems to be missing. And one would focus in on this period in 1968 particularly. Bill arrives at Oxford and starts getting involved speaking in the anti-war protests across Europe.
I wonder if he was paid $700,000 per speech.
He was later on.
Yeah, I mean, for that.
It was just they had to manage to account for him all those years. They're just giving him his money back. But I'm kidding, of course. But he also, with Strobe Talbott, I believe, traveled in the Soviet Union in a vacation period, and in Czech Republic and Norway, between 68 and 69, I believe. Now, to put that in perspective, I was over in England in 1976, so 8 years later, and had a bit of spare money, and I was thinking about going somewhere for Thanksgiving. And the choice, there were these tours that we could go to the Soviet Union.
Perillo cruise to the Soviet Union.
No, it was like some, bucket shop travel thing, or Tunisia. And unfortunately,
travel.
I went to Tunisia, and I learned that in Thanksgiving time frame, North Africa can be very, very cold.
You should have gone to Turkey during Thanksgiving, Charles.
And say, yeah, I'm here to have my turkey. But anyway.
You were close.
So, but one of the reasons we did not go then to the Soviet Union is it was very difficult to get in there.
Right.
So how did Bill Clinton, with no money, how did he manage with Strobe Talbott to get into the Soviet Union, and why did he pick that, and what did he do? We know that he's hardly well behaved.
In Oxford. Right?
Now, let alone when he was 20.
Well, I mean, wasn't he kicked out of Oxford for...
We don't know precisely why.
Accusations of drug dealing and raping somebody, and also everything that you're describing, Charles, it's remarkably similar to the same track that Lee Harvey Oswald was on just a few years before.
Right. And so, as usual, when we...
Broke teenagers traveling to...
As usual, when you look at a Clinton scandal, you're encouraged to look away from the real scandal. They'll give you another scandal to chew on. And so the Trump, Russia, Manafort, all that stuff. I think what we're going to do here, what I'm going to do, and others will do, but with us, I hope, when we think through the Russia scandals, no matter what they might be, the values created for Indian and Chinese people as compared to the starting economic position per capita of India and China, those large sums created for the oligarch equivalent families in China and India are enormous. And a lot of that money trickles back into the United States and the West via foundations, via donations to foundations or universities, or via invitations to get involved in these overseas deals and globalist deals. And it's the Bush family on the right, it's McCain on the who knows where. It's certainly the Clintons. I don't know whether Talbott has profited from this or not, but certainly the Clintons have. And that's the larger game that nobody wants to really focus on the way you need to focus on it. How much money was paid to politicians across the spectrum and influence shapers across the spectrum so that crooked oligarchs in India, China, and elsewhere could create these companies that would provide platforms for the large multinationals to say, you know what, rather than playing by the rules in the US and the West where they're going to enforce them, why don't I make my stuff in China or India where nobody's going to enforce these rules, and I'll get a nice report from McKinsey saying I complied with American law even though I'm operating in India or China. So that, I think, in economic terms, is the big scandal, teasing that out. And instead, we've gotten involved for 4 years saying it's the Trump's involved with Russia. No, the Clintons are involved with Russia. Well, who's involved with China?
To a Russian guy.
Yeah, well, who's involved with China? Who's involved with India?
Right. Australia, Norway.
Not Australia and Norway.
No, I'm saying who's involved with them. It's all the Clintons.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's one big story. But it's nice that it's coming out that we're going to focus on the Brookings Institution, which is supposed to be a charity, and therefore not involve itself in politics of any kind. A novel thought.
Yeah, but obviously they do, like crazy.
Right. And so there's real focus on that now, finally. Another thing I'll reveal to the crowd, when I was at college, in my junior year, I competed for a chance to be in a program where you didn't have to go to class in your senior year, which sounded like a good deal to me.
Yeah.
But the bad part of it was you had to work harder, and you got 10 credits instead of 8 credits. And there roughly were 1,300 students in my year, and 12 to 14 of us got selected for that. And 10 years before me, Strobe Talbott had done the same thing. So I probably wouldn't have done it if I focused on that. But
whoa.
What?
Oh, it's a lot of garbage over there. There's a lot of problems that the city has for when you consider how much attention the mayor has paid to the Black Lives Matter mural in front of Trump Tower.
Yeah, and you would have thought, you know, I'm not an engineer, but you would have thought that if you're thinking about managing the rat population,
right,
the last thing you want to do is leave a whole bunch of food out for them.
And garbage.
Friday night.
We've got this pandemic. Why haven't they changed the garbage collecting protocols to reduce whatever disease might be spread by that?
Those were Mormon missionaries.
Oh yeah. I sat next to a Mormon missionary kid on a flight one time. He was a nice guy.
Yeah, they, well, of course, my ex-wife was a Mormon, and her family are still very Mormon. All of the kids except for my ex-wife and her sister went on missions. So, that's one development. The
God, it smells like urinal cakes right here, Charles.
I'm sure it is.
A lot of places still boarded up, out of business.
Get used to that.
Well, so we were talking about New York City, and from the standpoint of being an environment that is conducive to business, that was one of New York City's greatest strengths previously. And maybe I've said this before, and it's a minor thing, but when you start to take certain things away, that advantage goes with it. Like, I was walking down to the park before, and I noticed a bunch of people lined up outside Lululemon.
Right.
I don't ever shop there. I think it's women's clothing, but
I hope you don't shop there.
Well, it just made me be like, oh, you know, this is like what we saw with the Soviet Union. People lining up to have access to retail goods.
Yeah.
You know, you can't go to Virginia without coming back to New York and being in quarantine for 2 weeks. So the freedom of travel is greatly restricted. If you are, like me, made uncomfortable by wearing a mask even with the first few seconds of putting it on, you're not getting on an airplane to go anywhere, so your ability to travel around the country and around the world is greatly...
Let's show the people these things. So, here's a one-bedroom apartment, East 32nd Street. They're asking $580,000.
Wow,
now,
with that kind of crappy window air conditioning.
$665 in a nice area, another one-bedroom. It's a pretty nice looking, I mean, it's probably tiny. Here is a two-bedroom asking $1.6 million.
I don't think they're going to get any of these.
Three-bedroom, $2.5 million. East Flatbush, which is in the middle of nowhere, a four-bedroom, $600,000.
Queens.
This is called,
this
this is like me saying, you know, Jason, what I'm going to do next week, I'll meet you over in Moscow. I'm going to choreograph the Bolshoi Ballet, which is probably not in Moscow, it's probably in St. Petersburg or something. But, you know, between now and then, I'm going to learn how to do that. There's no way those prices are going to get met.
Oh, yeah, no way.
No way.
I don't think those things could be sold for half those prices. I just can't imagine someone being like, you know, I think I want to move to New York right now.
Yeah. What I'd like is, you know, I'm really in the business of increasing my negative net worth. So I want as many liabilities as I can get.
So FedEx staying open until 9:30 p.m. may sound like a minor thing, but when I opened the 21st Century 3D office in Los Angeles and was busily sending things between New York and Los Angeles, the 6 p.m. cutoff in LA was frequently a problem. And likewise, that late cutoff was a tool that we used to send things to Europe and around the world, and sometimes it was the difference between completing the job and not. And so obviously this is a minor point, but I'm saying that's just one thing, and there's a million things that have happened that have made doing business in New York a lot less appealing than it was just 5-6 months ago.
Well, I mean, you can count on the sunny disposition of the residents here. I mean, everyone's so upbeat and positive, friendly.
Hey, look at this. this is a thing that says restroom, but who put that up and who's advertising for you to use their restroom? Who would want that other than somebody encouraging people to be out on the street for long periods of time?
Some devious reason, I'm sure. And we're making pretty good time. This is Canal Street.
Well,
we're going by the Gucci factory.
Right. It's the Somali Gucci factory. Charles, are you surprised by what we saw down there at Chop Hall?
It's cleaner than I expected, but it's not like they're going to give up.
Well, but it's also not like they've restored what it is supposed to be. They've just closed it off to everybody now. So
Right.
if you're trying to shut down New York City, they just won. Because that should be a park that you and I are allowed to walk through and hang out in on a sunny Sunday afternoon in the summertime. Instead, it's just off limits and the cops are there kind of, doing and saying nothing.
Amazing.
So what if they
I
do
feel
that
like-
to Washington Square Park? What if they do that to Central
Get
Park?
ready.
Should
Well, this
we-
thing goes all over the place.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, these types of things, I don't know if these guys have permits to be selling this stuff.
Right.
It's very clearly not authentic Louis Vuitton.
And I'm sure they're
material.
collecting sales tax
Right,
assiduously.
so that's what I mean. These types of minor, petty crimes are flourishing.
They're filing
People-
their quarterly corporate income taxes and paying their Social Security,
Well, it's people drinking in public, people smoking pot in public, people
paying their license fees.
right, doing these kind of little things that collectively reduce the quality of life for people who want an organized, law-abiding society.
Why would you want that?
Yeah, good point.
So, in related news, did you hear that that guy I'd never heard of until recently, Charlemagne the God, that radio host? Or I don't know if he's just a radio host.
Who Joe Biden told was not black?
Yeah, well, yeah. But Joe Biden then, to curry favor with the anarchists, he said that Donald Trump was the first actual racist in the White House.
Yeah, I saw that. That's ridiculous.
And that got him all upset because I think Charlemagne the God's theory is that Washington was a racist and the early people who had slaves were necessarily racist.
I think you could make a stronger argument for that than Donald Trump.
Yeah, Donald Trump being a racist is absurd. Especially when you think about, for example, Bill Clinton and Al Gore embracing the Confederate flag, embracing support from Fulbright and others, and KKK Bird.
Well, the crime bill that they passed that made it like much harder sentences on minorities for crack and things like that.
What that's all about.
The private prisons and all that. These are all things that, what do they call that? The prison industrial complex.
Right. Which Hillary and Bill and Chelsea belong inside.
Yeah. Well, they get the special owner's suite.
Hey guys, we're here today.
This was here last week.
Was it?
Oh, it's Trump inside there.
Trumpy. So,
Okay, so we're back on Broadway where we've been many times, Charles, and it looks like a lot of places are still closed.
but more foot traffic than before.
But there's nothing to buy.
You can steal cars.
It's true.
The girl.
Store for rent. I wonder how much they're going to pay you to rent a store.
Right.
Some of the art is not bad, but graffiti-esque.
See what I mean about the standing in line?
Yeah, well, for me, I hate shopping, so all I need to be told is there's a line to get into a shop. I'm like, done deal, I don't have to go.
But if it's food or something,
I'm talking about apparel shopping. Now, there's a soap shop.
oh, you know what? Do you want to go look at the Odd Fellows Hall right over there?
Sure.
I've been by it before, but I mean, this is why I think the eyeballs are interesting, because it does definitely seem to be, straight out of the Odd Fellows symbology library. And yeah, these like sort of farm stand looking restaurant extensions are all over the place.
You mean rat food holders?
I'm not really familiar with Naked and Famous. I don't know what that is. It's a clothing store, so that's
It's not
strange.
doing so well.
Wow. Trauma Inc. That's funny. You know what? That Trauma Inc. was implicated in some internet something or other with the Toxic Avenger. I can't say that I know too much about that, but that's interesting that
I
appeared
know
there.
nothing about that.
People watching will know something about it. That's why it's great to just walk around sometimes pointing the camera at different stuff. And let's see, I thought it's grand.
Yeah, I think, believe it or not, this is the high rent district. Crosby Street, I know, is there's lots of fancy lofts on it.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting
Up that
part
way.
of town. It's over here. I think we see it right across from
Oh, that thing, isn't that the police hall?
Well, that used to be the police. It says on it, police department. I don't
Right.
really know much about it other than looking at it. But when I came here to check out what was up, our sound problem there again. When I came over here to look at what was up with the Oddfellows Hall, I did find it quite strange that it was right across the street from the police, because I'm primarily interested in check. Okay, so
What we could do, Jason, is we could go a little bit further. We haven't walked up one of those other avenues. Maybe we could go.
yeah, the reason why I came down here is that I was primarily interested in a relationship between the police and the Oddfellows, because Derek Chauvin worked, and there's WeWork, Charles.
That's
It's a
where
crappy
WeWork
building
used to
have
be.
a WeWork in, isn't it?
I think that's where WeWorks used to be, because I think WeWorks is
But
going
I'm
to go.
just intrigued by these different kind of like businesses that you tell me make no sense financially. Then we've got these weird secret societies with their abandoned buildings across the street from what used to be the police department. We've got Derek Chauvin, who is a member of the police, who also works in a restaurant connected to the Oddfellows building in Minneapolis. We've seen, this is it. This is
That
the
one?
old Oddfellows thing.
Huh.
And it's got, if you see up on the top there, it's got the 3 links. You know, the Oddfellows
That's a big building.
have those chains. Well, not only that, it's a totally abandoned building. And I mean, why wouldn't somebody buy this huge, amazing building and turn it into something? I don't understand. Is it abandoned?
It would appear to be under construction, possibly.
But I
Shaw
spoke to
Group
some
Enterprises.
guys from the neighborhood who said it was abandoned for like, you know, more than a decade.
Oh, okay. This is Little Italy where we are now, I think. Or
Yeah. So this thing here is, it used to be the police department, but now it's an apartment building.
Open Door Senior Center, it says.
Yeah, but it's primarily an
Oh yeah,
apartment.
this is Chinatown / Little Italy.
Right.
We've been through here before, I think. But again, this is you know, brain damage and trouble for the entrepreneurs down here. I mean, you know, normally this would be thriving.
It's not so good.
It's horrible. Yeah, Mulberry Street. We can walk up Mulberry Street.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. For people who have never been to Chinatown, it's an interesting sort of city within a city that really does transport you to another culture. Look at that little pickup truck, Charles. That's kind of interesting.
Mhm.
Plant it. How you guys doing? I guess they're selling cacti.
What do you sell?
Cacti.
Plants.
God, it's hot, Charles.
The smell
I don't
of
know how you
garbage.
make it with the jacket and everything.
It's a enforced weight loss approach.
Speaking of weight loss, here's Ferrara's Bakery. That's an excellent place to get cannolis and stuff.
You want one?
Not right now. I wonder if it's even open.
You want to?
Yeah, let's go up here. This is where the San Gennaro Festival and stuff like that happens. I think we're about to lose
They've got the light,
here.
yeah. We're good.
Tuck into the shade so the cameras don't get too heated up. So, well, Charles, what else is newsworthy that you'd like to discuss?
Sorry.
That's all right.
Well, we have Donald Trump has been pretty quiet this weekend. He was playing golf with Brett Favre, the famous quarterback, at one of his clubs. But towards the end of last week, he was really up in the ante against Obama and Biden and Obamagate, talking about a lot of people need to go to prison, that we have them dead to rights, and that the penalties for some of the crimes are worse than simply going to prison, i.e. treason, i.e. death.
Well, I hope he will act on that rather than just tweeting and talking about it.
I think he will. I think he is.
I hope so. I really do.
Excuse me, a suspicion. And I think they're also, I got word from a reliable source that Strzok.
It smells delicious over here, Charles.
It does, actually. Looks like a nice place. That Peter Strzok has apparently been flipped, is what.
I find that super difficult to believe.
No, I don't find it so difficult to believe. I mean, given the penalties that could be brought against him, and that he has apparently already been singing and implicating a lot of people, including one person that Joe Biden has been touting as his possible VP, Susan Rice.
Also a Rhodes Scholar.
Yeah.
Double-cross agent, according to David Hawkins.
Also just a despicable human being. I mean, anybody who could think it's funny to lie about Benghazi and then...
Did she think it was funny?
I think so, yeah. She thought she was, smug and in the know, and we little people don't deserve to know what they were really trying to accomplish for our greater
good. They were
good.
covering a major operation with that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I didn't know that she thought it was funny. See, this is sad. You would think that there'd be a huge kind of like brunch, early dinner crowd going on here in Little Italy.
Normally that's the way it works. People come in from the outer boroughs of New Jersey or wherever. They come in, they stroll around for uptown or whatever, and they get together as families and they have a meal. And then they try to bug out and get home by 6 or 7 on a Sunday.
I don't think that standard traffic is as much of a consideration as it was prior. It's interesting, Charles. Everybody talks about, if we don't do this, something's going to happen. If, the new normal, et cetera. We're in it. We're already, this is post-COVID life. It's not going to change. I did a sort of a little bit of a impromptu, almost even involuntary social experiment the other day.
What was that?
Well, I've mentioned to the audience that when I had to appear in court in Virginia for a show cause hearing in Steele v. Goodman, of course I had to wear a mask, a face covering, and as much as I object to that, I was compelled, obviously, and didn't want to risk doing something that would jeopardize my position in the lawsuit over that, so I had to wear the mask. And I've had to wear it to a couple of other places as a result of this lawsuit. I got to go into FedEx, I've had to go to Staples and buy things and go to a hotel when I was over there. So when I was going to FedEx the other day, I was wearing a mask and I noticed that just walking around with the mask on, these frowny New York faces, thank you for holding the door open and have a good day. And my neighbors in the apartment building and everybody was so friendly. It's almost like that movie, Shallow Hal. Did you ever see that?
Oh, yeah.
Where somehow some spell gets put on Jack Black where he sees this really obese woman, looks like
Beautiful.
Gwyneth Paltrow to him,
Yeah.
and he falls in love with her. And so Gwyneth Paltrow, when they were making that movie, had a very elaborate fat costume that made her look obese. And as a social experiment, she wore it around town one day and remarked that people were just incredibly rude to her. And it was an interesting study for someone who all their life has been a super beautiful woman, walking around, everybody's nice to her. And
Well, now people are rude to her because she's been exposed as being an arrogant idiot.
well, I bet you a lot of people are still impressed that they're meeting a famous, actress. But the point is, it's interesting to see how people act when you have the face thing on versus not. I'm getting the stink face from everybody from, young black women driving Lexuses to Eric Schmidt, and with the mask on, everybody's super nice. So it's just a little taste of the kind of social ostracization people can expect if the Alan Dershowitz world of mandatory vaccines becomes
Right.
the new normal.
Exactly.
He's hitting hard on this notion that you can lock yourself in your house and be ostracized from society, or you can take some vaccine that has yet to be developed that
That will kill people.
Well, Robert F. Kennedy absolutely decimated Alan Dershowitz in a debate that took place on valuetainment. A lot of people have been emailing me that valuetainment really didn't give me credit for given the importance that the clip represented to their whole show.
Right.
They mentioned me in their comments section, but I agree, it wasn't really very well handled by them.
Right.
I also think it's important for people to watch that interview to hear the things that Dershowitz says. I'm getting a better sense for how he speaks and how he operates, and a lot of people dismiss him, oh, he's this, he's that, but he's an important guy to study from the standpoint of making incredibly calculated statements with purpose.
Right.
And I'm not praising him, I'm trying to evaluate his methodology. He has misrepresented a number of the things that were said to me in the initial interview, and I have a very, very strong feeling that all of this activity around that statement is designed to deflect people away from some of the very important things Alan Dershowitz said about Epstein, Maxwell, Rothschilds, Clintons. They want to focus on this opinion statement he's made about mandatory vaccines that, quite frankly, have no bearing on public policy, the law, the government, nothing.
Right.
He's just an independent guy stating his opinion. But statements and comments that he's made about the people that I just mentioned could very well have an impact on ongoing criminal investigations, including the one into Ghislaine Maxwell.
Right.
I think they're trying to deflect people away from that.
I think you're right. So just if I could turn the attention to one of our favorite topics, the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah.
People may be watching my Twitter feed. I'm grateful to the many people who do retweet some of my tweets and add comments. I really appreciate that. This morning, I tweeted out, or early this afternoon, a very cryptic tweet that I want to explain. And in it, I make reference to something called Form 3115. Now, Form 3115 is a form you have to fill out if you're a corporation and you switch your accounting technique. You switch it from cash basis to accrual most often, or if you switch a material element of your treatment from, you are taking a reserve, or you're not taking a reserve, you are expensing capital expenditures, or you're not, or whatever.
They have a very cruel method for accounting when it comes to the Clinton Foundation.
What's that?
It's a
accrual?
joke on accrual.
So in the cash basis of accounting, it's kind of like the way most entrepreneurs run businesses when they're small. What's in my checking account or savings account week to week?
Yeah.
Is more or less what you check. Now that is a very irresponsible way of running a business if you're growing quickly. Because typically when you grow a manufacturing business, you have to buy raw materials and you have to pay to assemble your product before you get paid.
Right.
And when you grow very quickly, good news there, you hit a sale, but the bad news is people take time to pay you. So you can go bankrupt growing quickly. And that's why you do really want to use accrual basis. So when you switch from the cash basis to the accrual basis, as the Clinton Foundation claims that it did in 2000, well, the form is filled out October 27th, 2006. When you do that, there's I think the instructions for the form are about 40 pages. It's very complex what you have to fill out. And you're supposed to tell the truth, but not the Clintons, they don't do that, they don't believe in that. So they argued in their form, which of course, I forget if you can see it, this form is in the 2005 annual report, audit pack on their site. The version that's on their site is date stamped December 20th, 2006. Now that's after the 2006 election that Hillary was running to be reelected as a senator. And it's a month and 5 days following the final deadline for filing the form. And of course, that version that they have on their site is not what they filed with the IRS. And we know that because you can go on ProPublica and you can see a signed version of that form that's dated November 13th.
Why aren't they in trouble just for filing it late?
Well, because New York State was controlled then. The Attorney General was Elliot Black Sox Spitzer, and he wasn't going to do anything.
Black Sox?
Huh?
Oh, because he kept on the Black Sox when he was doing whatever with what's her name?
Yeah. You would think, for whatever he was paying her per session, that she would take off his Black Sox for him.
Well, you'd think the guy would have heard of cash. He's the governor and he's paying prostitutes with a credit card.
Yeah.
Seems dumb.
He wanted to make sure that his wife found out about it. So
he wanted the frequent flyer points, right?
Let's be careful here.
What's wrong?
We're outnumbered.
Let me just cross over here.
Anyway, so with this form, one of the reasons they claimed they were switching to the accrual method of accounting was that the entity that they had bought, the Clinton, or merged with, the Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS Initiative, used the accrual basis of accounting. Well, of course, the 990s, the annual reports for the Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS Initiative, are not on the Clinton Foundation site, but you can get them by going on 990 Finder. You have the 2004 and the 2005 version. The 2004 version, it says that the Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS Initiative is using the cash method of accounting. 2005, they say they're using the accrual method, but there's no Form 3115 for the Clinton Foundation HIV/AIDS Initiative. And I could go on and on and on, but the thicket of important rules, laws, regulations that these people violated just in that important period relating to 2005. We go on and on. Let's go up here first.
Ooh, nice.
Is that,
Charles, why'd you lend this guy your car?
Nice car.
So they're using this screwy accounting.
Yeah, well, let me go on. So then the whole thing, you have, I think everyone, how would you describe the word nebbish? What does that mean?
Nebbish is somebody annoying who won't stop bugging you and maybe has an annoying voice.
Right. And so maybe we, you have somebody who, you're not a rule person. You're not somebody who believes in obeying the rules. So you yourself don't want to fill out the forms. So you want to get an arrogant idiot nebbish to be your detail person. So you blame everything on him. That person is Andrew Kessel. Right?
It's hard to keep the nebbish idiots straight.
And this guy is a monumental screw up. If you go through the chronology of the number of times he's fucked up a form, and it's not minor stuff. Every time you sign a form under penalties of perjury and then use the mail to send that form across state lines, you're committing state crimes. You want to go that way? Or
sure.
Federal crimes?
That's a really nice apartment building, Charles.
It is. Was a really nice.
What's this? 303.
I don't know.
With an eyeball-looking logo.
It looks like it's something to do.
But with the
eyeglasses.
It's like a barber kind of a logo.
Yeah.
It's strange.
Look at that. Anyway, so this guy, Kessel, joins the Clinton Foundation appropriately on April Fool's Day, 2004. Now, that's before...
Sorry, Charles. Is that formerly Bond Street Sushi right there?
Could be.
I guess that's out. So
he joins on April Fool's Day, 2004. This is before the Clinton Foundation has given its interest in the library to the National Archives. And I cannot find a single form that nebbish has filed, and there are thousands of them, where he has gotten his title right, the name of the company right, the math right, the audit right.
But never the name of the organization.
It's always wrong. Everything you just
so
with
that
him,
can't be an accident.
He's reliably always wrong. I wonder how they recruited him. They probably had, like with AOC, she supposedly was part of a talent search. They probably said, look, what we need to do is get...
America's got boobs.
No, we need we need to get somebody, the worst executive search firm in the world. Who is that? And they scare up this guy Kessel, who is still the chief financial officer. Now, you go, to give you just a sense of things that are wrong. You go into the Articles of Incorporation and bylaws, which define what the titles are going to be in the company, and you have an absolute requirement that somebody be a president, another requirement that somebody be a treasurer, but there is no such title, chief financial officer, and no such title, chief executive officer, and no such title, vice chairman. You know, they have to have 3 officers with these specific titles, and they don't have them. They have to have audits, and they don't have them. You know, they have to fill out the paperwork. Of course, they don't do that. And so people have been saying to me, this is taking so long, you know, nothing's ever going to come of it. Well, it's taking so long because the regulators across the 50 states and the IRS, Department of Justice, U.S. attorneys, and international folks have all allowed this to fester and become the cancerous, rat-infested swamp that it is.
It's beyond swamp, Charles. It's like a toilet at this point.
But so many, you see now, the not-for-profit land is a place where it seems
you can do whatever you want.
You do what you want, exactly. You want to publish a paper saying, you know, you've cured cancer, put it right in Lancet. You know, or the hydroxychloroquine doesn't work. You bribe somebody at Lancet, you get it in there, next thing you know.
Here, look for heroin.
Who is this?
I don't know.
Who is Lola?
I mean, no idea, obviously. We could ask that guy.
Lola is a whore for heroin. Guess somebody will.
Weird.
This is, you know, this was prime shopping territory.
But it's all boarded up still.
Still boarded up.
So phase 4 and it's boarded up. And all Cuomo is tweeting about is how important it is to wear a mask while he is not.
Nor is Fauci.
Yeah, he had it down. Nor is Eric Schmidt. They had it down below their nose. I mean, this is like getting those topless condoms. What the hell is the point?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So
I just invented that, by the way.
That's very, very good. So,
worst selling product ever.
So I think, you know, we're in a place now where, I don't know how many videos this is for you and me, 250 maybe, almost?
Close to it, yeah.
And no response from the Clintons other than to try to scare me before my recent birthday, saying I'm friendly with John Solomon and you know, that rubbish.
He cowered pretty quickly. A couple pictures of him in a dress, and that was it.
Yeah, I don't like those pictures. Anyway, I think the battle is really, the final stages of the battle are here on the Clinton Foundation and on many crooked charities. I also think that this lockdown is exposing big education, big academia for what it is, and it's a monumental waste of money.
That's very ironic that you mentioned that right by where we walk. My personal monumental waste of money. One of them.
Yeah. But I mean, really, I love the way Trump, the Rose Garden or whatever it was, press conference, he said, you know, they're going to keep the schools closed, the public schools closed, then maybe the money that we dole out should go to the parents.
Right.
So they can use it to put their kids in
charge. No, we're going to open the schools. He's smart.
Very smart.
He said no money to the cities that allow CHOP. CHOP goes away the next day.
Chop, chop. And
I mean, that's really a bad commentary on de Blasio,
yeah.
If he needed any more bad commentary.
Yeah. And you know, you think about it, and this whole idea he's been able, and it's true, to say the cities where the crime is the greatest and they're in the worst shitholes are run by Democrats. It's a fact.
We're in one right now.
I know.
Hey, look, Cozy Soup and Burger has a little garden now. I never thought I would see that day.
Never been in there.
You know what? If you don't care about your health, they make an amazing hamburger.
It's what, rat meat?
It's just like 4 inches thick, and they've got a flat top skillet with this special kind of metal thing. It's just an incredibly greasy, delicious, like, that's NYU.
Why don't we go up to Union Square and then head over to 7th?
Sure.
Across 14th and see if we encounter those women who yelled at you last time. Remember that?
It's so hard for me to remember how many women have been yelling at us as we walk around.
No,
doesn't narrow it down. But what were they?
They were just mad at you because you weren't wearing a mask.
Oh,
They
yeah,
insulted
yelling
your
at me.
masculinity.
Yes, that I remember, yeah. But, oh, look, this is now also for rent. Charles, it's a lot of places out of business.
Yeah.
Papyrus over there.
Somebody in training.
This was a bank, wasn't it?
The person's sleeping there. I don't know how you sleep at this time of day in this heat
Hot,
on the
noisy.
sidewalk.
Charles, all this stuff is out of business.
Well, this has been out of business for a while, this whole corner thing.
Has it? Let's cross the street to the shade. What do you think these trucks are doing here?
Huh? Hey, this used to be a pizza shop. Before that, long ago, it was a Lamston's. Like a Woolworths or something.
I don't think there was ever a Woolworths while I was living here.
Old-fashioned, drugstore with a diner table and knick-knack shop.
When did this become a Staples?
About 15 years ago.
Really?
A long time.
What do you suppose all these huge trucks are doing here? This looks like they're making a hole in the street.
That's a big, must be doing something unusual. Gonna knock a building down, maybe?
Seems like it.
Some big ass cranes going up.
That's what I mean. This is
That's
like
typically a sign that you're doing a big building. Maybe taking one of these buildings down, maybe taking this thing down?
I don't know. I would peg that as the more likely candidate.
Yeah, it could be.
But even some of these places, Charles, that have got substantial outdoor seating, there's really nobody there.
Yeah. And there's
Of
the
course,
Great Grace
Wells
Church.
Fargo remains, occupying a very large space.
Yeah. The
My
days
bank
of going
won't
to
even
a
be in
bank.
there anymore.
The days of going to a bank branch are, I think, over. There's Grace Church.
Yeah.
Used to have a big tree right in that little small, where it says Chantry entrance. There used to be a tree almost as tall as the steeple there.
Wow. Why'd they get rid of that? Whew. Hot day.
I should have worn my overcoat.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, do you have one of those?
I do not have one of those, but I have seen quite a lot of those. That's actually slightly different than the one I'm thinking about. There's I think it's called a slingshot, which is like a three-wheel, it seems like a cross between a motorcycle and a car. A lot of people drive around on those and blast their music and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Charles, it's been quite a walk today. It looks like my thermal management strategy has cooperated.
You have to say that. Now it's gonna go into open rebellion.
Well, even if it does, we've gotten the bulk of the show completed, really checking out what was going on down there at the CHOP, getting a feel for, I'm disappointed to see that it's not just open to the public and a regular thing. It's an alarming amount of police protection for City Hall, particularly given the relative paucity of police that we see elsewhere in New York City. I mean, again, this is the attitude of a socialist, Marxist, oligarch type guy.
Criminal.
Like de Blasio. He doesn't care if our neighborhoods get destroyed and are covered with garbage, but when it comes time to protecting him,
Look at that. Here's somebody who's parked a scooter so that it's virtually impossible for that truck to get out of the parking
oh
spot.
no, it's going to be very possible that scooter's going to wind up on the street and then crushed as the guy backs up. But I mean, Charles, this is how it typically works, right? The guys in charge have all the police protection and guns around them, so you can't get to them. But you and I could be accosted on the street here, and if I go get a cop, they'll say, "Did you call 911?"
That's called political privilege.
It's called a dysfunctional city.
Yeah.
And when we look around at all of these out-of-business businesses, the writing is on the wall, it's on every wall, it's on the street, it's on some of these cars. there's going to be less tax revenue. There's going to be less businesses that you can go to. There's going to be, oh look, there's a line at the Strand, Charles.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is really bad.
You want to go to a movie, Jason? Oh,
Yeah.
you can't do that.
I don't think you can. Yeah, it's just temporarily closed. still.
Temporarily, it's been closed since March.
So what would you estimate the rent is in that Regal Cinema? That's actually one of the larger.
That was a redone, right? It was purpose. What do
Yeah.
they call it? Theater seating.
Well, exactly, stadium seating.
Stadium seating.
When this whole building was built, that was one of the anchor kind of retail tenants. Wow, I'm surprised to see a bomb store over here in this neighborhood.
I mean, I can wait.
That's just usually not where they are. But
Right next to Grace Church School. You got
I mean, Charles,
built-in
seriously
customer
though,
base.
the rent for a huge thing like that, which is vacant for the past 5 months, how can they possibly stay open?
You can't. You can't. And I remember back in the 1998 timeframe, thereabouts, maybe 2000, being pitched the idea of backing these type of theaters and elaborate,
Terrible idea.
5-10 year financial projections about how, the digital revolution would be great, and
Nope.
people will pay up for tickets,
Nope.
and you'll, be delighted to pay $20 for a bag of popcorn, and like, you out of
No.
your mind? And actually the guy who, I don't know if it's Regal, but a guy called Philip Anschutz, who is a billionaire, and he's a member of the Lucky DNA Club. He inherited a lot of money, but then he was a very shrewd investor, bought a railroad, separated the right of way.
Put a hotel on it.
Created Frontier Communications, sold that for many billions. I think it was Frontier, something like that. And it turned out he had this gigantic ranch. I mean, when I say gigantic, I mean, I don't know if it was 1 million acres, but it was a lot of land. And under it, of course, he had oil, gas,
Wow.
minerals, you name it. So, but it's a German-sounding name. You might assume he's Jewish, but he's actually a devout Christian. And the reason he got involved in this is he wanted to make sure that people watched, family quality movies and stuff. So he was going to try to route those through these stadium things. I'm like, boy, you got an F on the first attempt. This is a triple F. I mean, there's no way this is going to work.
Right.
People don't go to movie theaters
go through the
let's
park.
stay on the shade.
Sure.
They don't go to movies, to be reminded that their family life sucks. They go to movies to escape reality.
Yeah.
So that
According to
didn't work
Robert De Niro in the Robert Altman film, The Player, people go to the cinema to be titillated, Charles. That's what they say. So, I mean, again, we see the cops
You got to
texting,
use a
talking,
gender-neutral word there.
less than 6 feet apart, no mask,
Hey guys,
arresting people for not wearing the mask. We've got a lot of talk. Dershowitz, when he was speaking to Robert Kennedy Jr., he's constantly trying to trap him in a statement with these hypothetical scenarios that this is the essence of what I took away from the Dershowitz conversation and what I'm starting to observe from watching more of these conversations. And you've hit on this many times, Charles. The podcast revolution, this current generation in media where individuals can start their own channels and create their own news programs and talk shows and
Right.
really go in depth. No show is, first of all, going to hire me, or second of all, allow us to sit here and talk for an hour and a half or whatever in depth. Same thing with Dershowitz. When he's on Fox, it's just like a 5-minute, 3-minute blast of whatever it is that he's saying. And then when we get to hear him speak for an hour and a half, certain things about his personality and his tactics come through. And Robert F. Kennedy was just pounding Dershowitz with facts and medical, studies and things that he was just so well informed about. And Dershowitz wants to immediately move it to a legal opinion,
Right. Well, that's the way his mind works.
but just to move it as far away from the root of what's being discussed and plant a flag in the ground. That's a very lawyery thing to do, like to get you to agree to certain stipulated facts where if you're tricked into that,
Right.
you can no longer disprove them even if they are totally contrary to the facts of what occurred. That's what Dershowitz is trying to do.
Yeah, yeah. I hope, should I attain his age, that I would not at his age feel the need to have an opinion on television on every single matter. Careful.
Yeah.
He's pretty sharp for 82.
Is he 82?
That's what he said on the interview. 81, about to be 82. How do you like the pitch being as specific as telling you what he's going to do with the 50 cents?
Yeah.
It's
I mean, I've got a prospectus here.
Yeah, going to Wendy's. I don't know if that's a good return for me. 50 cents for you to go to Wendy's.
What's your EBITDA multiple?
Make it Subways and we got a deal.
That was the corner, I think, in front of Republic Bank where this gaggle of women gave you a hard time.
But also, how could you give the guy 50 cents? There's no coins around. I guess that's his way of discounting and ask for $1.
Well, the whole trick is to get you to open your wallet, produce your wallet, then they steal your wallet.
You say, I don't have any change. Oh, I'll take $1.
I'll just take your wallet.
Can you change a 5? No. See, I don't know if
Can I
people in
have
New
your stock
Jersey are
portfolio?
aware of the color green.
And now look at this. How many of these guys are there? They're everywhere.
Say again?
The beggars are everywhere.
Well, I mean, this is what we've observed from the beginning, that there's just less people around and there's been no attention paid by the city to the homeless problem.
Yeah, well, they just want to exacerbate it.
Right.
Apparently also, in a bit of upbeat news for those of us like me who loathe San Francisco, they have espousing all these hysterian nitwit ideas about how to deal with the homeless problem, encourage them to come there, and then move them into vacant hotels, because of course the hotels are closed.
Right.
That has not worked out well. That has
Why
not
not?
worked. These people have just destroyed the rooms.
Oh.
Toilet, I don't think I'll use that. That couch looks like a good place. It's just, and I'm not really making light of it. I think that, that there is a segment of this population, of our population, the human population, that does have mental challenges, mental health issues.
Right.
And that can lead them to make, whether they're making a decision or they just end up in a place that's a very bad place, and it can go from bad to much worse. And if we're going to be a caring society, I've been told in certain cases that there's some illnesses that you just cannot address. It's not, you
Well,
can't.
they certainly don't know how to, yeah.
Well, you can't address certain addictions until they say the person hits rock bottom and decides that they, in their self-interest, want to change behavior. I'm no expert on mental health at all, but I see two very significant mental health challenges in this city, and that's Bill DeCrazio and his wife.
Exactly.
I mean, they're crying out for help. I mean, the notion that you should say, we
did its thing again. Very disturbing. There's a whole series of updates I've gone through to try to prevent that. So if people are noticing a volume difference between this and what it's about, that's normal. Okay.
Good?
Yeah.
So, we're supposed to say, in the case of Bill DeCrazio and his wife, it's okay for the city to just give his wife almost $1 billion.
$800 million. Why did they do that? What was the stated purpose?
I forget, but it's wrong to ask the question, what happened to the money? I mean,
well, yeah.
that's really, to me, that's at a level where, this is in 1 year, $800 billion. That's bigger than the Clinton Foundation. Is that your car?
Wow. The gold dipped Maserati.
Nice car. What?
I don't know. Where do you even get that done?
Obviously, there's a place.
Yeah. So many places closed, Charles.
Yeah. We're going to see this part of New York is going to be a lot of buildings torn down, like the ones on the corner here and across the street. Those were like normal, like those kind of buildings.
Yeah.
And they're slapped these suckers up quickly. whether anybody's ever going to want to rent or buy them is another question.
Who's gonna? That looks like it's got to be condos they want you to buy. That's amazingly high ceilings, isn't it?
I don't know, I guess.
Look at the windows.
Yeah, I guess. But this is 14th and 6th, the part of the town that 30 years ago was really awful.
Can we make this, you think?
We're not going to make it, I don't think, here.
Right, so we'll
Unless you want to.
cross this way.
Yeah, we want to stay on this side of the street, unfortunately. We could probably go for it, Jason.
Yeah.
Well,
Lamborghini's gunning it.
another nice car.
So if you're going to get hit by a car,
That's not even
Lamborghini
from.
one.
Where's he from?
New Jersey.
Was that New Jersey, really?
Yes, every jackass driving 70 miles an hour in New York City seems to be from New Jersey.
But in New York, isn't the speed limit 30?
Not if you have a Lamborghini.
Oh, is it really? It's no law when it set you back.
Oh, I think it's over 200,000.
And then the insurance,
I mean, if you have to ask.
20 a
Charles,
year.
Probably more than that. I mean, well,
Maybe 10 a year.
yeah, I don't know.
But it just driving that kind of a car with, not enough space between the bottom of the car and the,
I think you don't have too many practical concerns when you.
I think you want to stay on this side because of the heat. These ads for Salino and Barnes are sickening. It's on and on and on. I got 10 times what somebody offered. I got 20 times what somebody.
Store closing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be
A lot of these stores are closing or closed. Yeah, I mean, I've thought about dining at a restaurant, but I just don't want to.
Yeah, they used to love going out.
Well, but I don't want to sit in the street where it's hot, where tons of people are walking around, and just even being out at night when it's sundown. Something I've been trying to avoid for a while. I guess the Y is still open.
That Y, the McBurney Y, used to be up in the 60s on
There's a few of them,
off
right?
Central Park West. I know that because my next brother Dan went to McBurney School for a few years when it was up there.
We've got the Salvation Army right here, Charles.
Yeah. I'm sure if we did some scratching into this, we would discover
Some
unpretty
weird stuff.
sights. Yeah. And they
Blood
take
and fire, it says.
Yeah. It's a very
that
nice, benign kind of slogan. So Jason, we're getting close to
Salvation.
7th Avenue here.
Yeah.
We still have not ratcheted back up the dynamism of, say, last year at this time. And just to get back to where we were a year ago, very difficult. Offsetting that, stock prices, and things that I watch are up above a year ago and approaching the peak. So I think in the coming week, I should comment briefly before we get to 7th Avenue here, that the GE book does not in fact mention me and tries to allege that the person who moved GE Price in 7 and 8 was this analyst from JP Morgan, and that's just,
Rubbish.
he's known, but he was not the person who was agitating. That person was me. And I retain records.
Well,
So-
but along the lines of what I'm saying with this Dershowitz interview, Charles, don't you think there are a number of people at GE and elsewhere who probably want to shift the story away from what you were saying towards some version that they control?
Careful. Oh yeah, that book was written, as most are, with inside GE sources, and I think in particular Jeff Immelt, who wanted to, at least get his side of the story, which he's not a jerk in theory. He was saddled with junk left over by Jack Welch. Blame it on the dead guy. Can't talk.
Exactly. Now, what do we plan to split at this corner?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's stand under here to guard from the wind, and then maybe some
Good.
closing statements.
Sure. That was just a cough from a piece of food in my throat. It was nothing to be concerned about.
I wasn't concerned.
Yeah, no. And I do think this coming week is going to get more and more tough for Bite Me, and his idea that he can put together a cabinet.
Has an idea?
Yeah, and that he's electable. I think we're going to start to see, if we already haven't started, the draft Hillary, draft Michelle, draft anybody but Bite Me. And it would not surprise me in the slightest for Michelle and or Hillary to put the knife in Biden. I mean, to maybe come out and say there really is something to this. What's the woman's, the accuser's name? Tara something or other?
Tara Reid.
Tara Reid. There was in the press, I tweeted it out today, more about this Privat bank and the money disappearing in Ukraine.
Or Cyprus or whatever.
Yeah, and we haven't really delved into the China story. Remember, Bite Me was saying that Trump's crazy to think that China's a threat.
Now he's changed his mind, I thought.
Yeah, well, you have to have a mind to be able to change it. So
they changed it for a potato.
And so, Mr. Potato Head.
Right.
But I mean, again, I don't know, maybe the number was tamped down, as could happen in his stream, but if I were running for president with a 47-year career in politics and vice president, senator, and this and all that kind of stuff.
All bad, by the way.
All horrendous record, and my best approach was to say, elect me because I know how to change the system because I've never done that before and I can barely tie my shoes or know where I am, and then I get the, hey boss, guess what? Your numbers are coming in strong. You nearly made 20 viewers on your live 20.
I mean, that is so bizarre. How can they think that there's a lot of interest in Donald Trump, whether you like him or hate him. He puts out a tweet, thousands and thousands of people are looking at it. If Donald Trump did a live stream video from the basement of his house,
be awesome.
Tens of thousands of people would watch that. This guy's got 19.
Right.
I could walk away from all this equipment, leave it in the street, and we'd have more than 19
Right,
viewers.
exactly. You could leave like a night cam on that cup.
Yeah.
And you probably have more than 19 people. But separately, contrasting that, you have his inability to do anything right. Then you have this guy, David Portnoy, who's got Barstool Sports, and he did an interview, 20-minute interview, which I think was cut and, it stopped and then it started again.
Post-production, yeah.
What was very, very impressive to me is the degree to which Donald Trump was comfortable. I mean, he didn't get the questions in advance, because I'm sure Hillary always gets not only the questions, and Joe gets the answers in advance. The problem is he can't read them.
Right.
He's forgotten how to read, but or process what he's saying. And the degree to which Portnoy and Trump were riffing on each other, and interrupting one another, and doing it respectfully. Here's a guy who's 74 years old. It's not like he's saying, well, the only thing I'm going to do today is, get out of my hot tub and brush my hair and my legs down and kiss a few Girl Scouts.
For a bowel movement.
Right, exactly. And then I'll go to the basement and give a live stream. Trump has a chock-a-block schedule that starts at, probably 4 in the morning.
Impressive stamina for a man 10 years younger.
And just to watch the interview, I strongly recommend people watch it. Equally, there's a very interesting interview on Epoch Times of John Solomon and his co-author, Connor, I forget the guy's last name, but anyway, the co-author, who had worked on Clinton Cash, and who works for Peter Schweitzer.
Right.
And it's a very good 1-hour interview. I'd only gotten through the first 10 minutes before having to do other stuff today. I'm going to watch later of it tonight. And he makes a very interesting point, Solomon, that that Putin's history had been leveraging Russia's energy complex against the former Eastern Europe and former members of the Soviet Union empire to say that if you don't follow our foreign policy, we're going to cut you off in the cold. You're going to freeze to death in the winter. And that the plan they had, and I remember these days back before the financial crisis really bit in 2007, very smart friends of mine who run energy consulting companies were saying that if you think through a growth strategy for the planet, starting in, say, 2005, and then think through the known sources of energy that are economic at the price points that prevailed and likely would prevail, there wasn't enough energy on the planet to fulfill the growth aspirations of the globalists who were thinking things through. And in particular, people were very excited about the idea of getting off petroleum to get to uranium. And so the strategy of cornering cornering the uranium market, because it's a limited number of countries, Kazakhstan, Canada, Australia.
That produce it even.
Yeah, so if you could corner the resource, the strategy went, that you might have the world at your fingertips. And I can imagine certainly the Canadians thinking that way. Alexander Downer, the people in Kazakhstan.
Charles, isn't this exactly what they were trying to do with OPEC, the petrodollar?
Same idea, yeah. But what I'm saying is, so John sets up the context for his book, Fallout, as being a context in which Putin actually did have a strategy, and it went back well before 2005, and he had done it in other guises with energy, and in essence suggesting that Bush and Biden, Obama, and to a certain extent Bill Clinton himself were all pawns in the strategy. It was a much bigger game than simply...
Run by who?
That Putin's right. It was Putin behind it.
Come on.
Putin. No, it does make sense to me that they would think
So Putin is manipulating all those guys? Is that it?
No. Putin's goal was to gain control of this uranium market, and he saw a way to do it by pressing a few small number of levers. Kazakhstan, which he had influence, Australia, which they grew to have influence through Clinton and Downer, Canada through Justra. And it's not as complicated as running the UN, where you have 200 nations to worry about. You have 5, 6, whatever it is. And that does make a little bit of sense to me, but I think the bigger story is, examining not simply the uranium piece, examining how the Soviet Union was busted up under Clinton's presidency, and who benefited, and how much of the money that the oligarchs got filtered back to the Clintons via Strobe Talbott maybe, and in other ways. And how come, nobody seems to be focusing on what was Mueller doing, traveling to Russia? Why didn't Mueller listen about the Tsarnaev brother warnings? There's so many suspicious people, and I saved the best for last. This story about the guy Namchenko or whatever his name is. Guess who he was prosecuted by?
The prosecutor from Ukraine.
He was prosecuted by Rosenstein, the source for the Steele dossier, when he had his problems with. Why don't we go all the way?
I was just going to use the phone.
When we had.
There's no phone, Charles.
Sorry?
There is no phone.
No, I know. There's a living in reality problem. But
so
Rosenstein was involved as the prosecuting attorney in this source of the Steele dossier. I mean, it's just, I don't believe in, let's cross the street. You need to be on that side anyway.
Well, the other thing is there's no way that this decimation of the Soviet Union was conceived under Bill Clinton. It was handed off to Bill Clinton from George H.W. Bush.
Of course, yeah, and the Rockefellers.
Right, who, I mean, they're longtime buddies who were real good at hiding that.
Yeah. So here we are. We'll close with one. Do you know who owns the donut pub?
No, but that's been there for a long time.
It's a very interesting. People will want to look this up. There's a guy called Buzzy, B-U-Z-Z-Y, Geduld, G-E-D-U-L-D. When I talk to you in the past, I've said there are people that really make a lot of money and you don't know their names. He's one of them. So in 2008, when Bloomberg was doing due diligence on my work and trying to decide should I go on television or radio or not, they went to 3 referees.
The donut shop?
Well, I'll tell you the story of who he is in a second. Buzzy was a very small kid, and he was sickly. And he graduated in a year. We had trouble getting a job. So with his friends, he created this donut pub. And then he got back into Wall Street, and he was a pioneer in discount brokerage. There was a firm called Herzog Heine, Geduld. And Buzzy didn't need the salary that his 2 partners did because he had the money from the donut pub. So instead of taking salary, he took stock. And ultimately this thing got huge, and It was sold to Merrill Lynch, and he pocketed $1 billion.
That's amazing.
Back in, we're talking about the early 2000s. And so he was one of the 3 referees. So 2 out of the 3 referees said I was an idiot and I was wrong. And Bloomberg backed away until April 7th or 8th or something like that, whenever he missed 2008. And I was proven right. And so, to his great credit, I get a phone call. I'm not going to say the name of the firm because it's sort of quiet. Is this Charles Hotel? Yeah. Look, a guy wants to see you. I said, does the guy have a name? Well, he's kind of private. So anyway, long story short, it was Buzzy. We go over there.
You meet him at the donut place?
No, he owns a lot of real estate here, and I went to his office on 6th Avenue in the 50s, and big, beautiful office, and he walks in, and he's got, it was almost like the producers. There was a large number of people, and space for him, and a space for me, and a space for my guy I brought along with, and he loves Chinese food, so he had Chinese food, and he comes in, kind of like the producer. He said, I said you were an idiot on GE. Who's the idiot? I'm the idiot. I was wrong. To his great credit, and he was very nice to me after that.
Funny.
But
that's been there as long as I have.
That's his original first business.
Wow, that's a good story.
So there you go.
Well, I'll tell you, Charles, I think this is a good place to end the show. I do want to thank people who sponsor Crowdsource the Truth, make it possible week after week. Got a big day ahead of me tomorrow that I'm not ready to speak about just yet, but I will later today as soon as I get back. I'll be posting my encounter with Eric Schmidt, and to avoid any punitive action by his,
Gestapo.
Yeah, the people at Google, I'm going to put it on patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth for sponsors to enjoy. It's a very interesting encounter, so I hope people will get on there and take a look. If you're already a sponsor, thank you so much. And Charles, will we be closing in on Wednesday? Do we have
assuming you're not in quarantine?
I didn't have to go to Virginia.
Just for other reasons.
No.
Yeah. I look forward to it.
Very good. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Oh, and don't forget, tomorrow, Light on Conspiracies with Ole Damagard. We've got Rebecca Carnes returning, and Cody Snodgrass will be with us. That's going to be a great show. See everybody tomorrow. That's also on Subscribestar and Patreon.